So today our guest speaker is Reverend Dr. Georgia Prescott. And she'll be, the theme, June's theme for Centers for Spiritual Living has been embracing self care. So today, Dr. Georgia Prescott will be speaking on the topic Love Points the Way, the Law Makes It Possible. So, um, our minister, Dr. Georgia, was the founding minister of the Center for Spiritual Awareness. Every time they say CSA, I think if we get the CSA box, for community supported agriculture, I would go, huh? Anyway, in Sacramento. And she remained their spiritual leader until a year ago. So she retired a year ago, which is great. She was there for 22 years and built a very thriving center, from what I understand. Um, she has a book. I'm not sure when you wrote this book. Did you?
About maybe 8 years ago.
8 years ago. Um, a spiritual, not religious look at the 12 steps, and it's available from Amazon. So we are thrilled to have her here with us this morning. So let's welcome Dr. Reverend Dr.
Thank you. And it's great to be here. I haven't been here to this center, mostly because I was in another center. And let me just start by saying the allergies are totally kicking my behind. And as a result, I sometimes break out into a really ugly cough. You know that kind of cough where your lung is going to come out of your chest? That's it. And so I'll step away, but I will come back if that should happen. The title of my talk today is Love Points the Way, the Law Makes It Possible. That's a phrase often used by our founder, Ernest Holmes. Love points the way, the law makes it possible. Now, here for today, the word love is going to be synonymous with desire. Love and desire are the same thing. So what he was saying is our desire points the way, and love makes it possible. We teach here in Science of Mind that it's the Spirit's good pleasure to give us the keys to the kingdom. The problem is we have to know what the kingdom looks like for us. Because if we don't know what the kingdom looks like for us, it's going to be hard to bring that into manifestation. You know who did this really well was Martin Luther King Jr. He didn't say, I have a hope or I have a wish. He said, I have a dream. And he went on to say what that dream was, among which was having little children walk hand in hand, little black children and little white children walk hand in hand together in harmony and love. He specifically knew what that dream was. And then he went on to say, and I went to the mountaintop. And when I was on the mountaintop, I looked over, and you may not come with me, but here is what I saw. And here is what you can have. You can have love prevail. You can have people respect one another. Even if they don't understand one another, they can respect one another. He was telling us when we go to our Christ consciousness, what we would call the mountaintop here is simply the consciousness of the Christ that is within each and every one of us. The Buddhic mind, the mind of Lao Tzu and Kuan Yin. That mind that said, I see the world as it can be, not necessarily as it is right now. So desire is really important, and being specific with our desire is really important. Even our secret desires, even those desires that we think, oh God, I hope nobody ever knows I want this. You might say, well, look, I'm at the water cooler and I'm flirting with this guy, and that'd be okay, except he's married and I'm married and we're married to different people, and I shouldn't be doing that. That's a desire. I can't see Spirit giving a stamp of approval to that desire. And I would say this about that. I would say what your desire isn't that guy. What your desire is to be cherished, to have fun, to flirt, to have a blossoming relationship that feels new. Go home and create that with your husband. Because it's not the guy, it's the desire is what it is that you want. That feeling that you want. Well, to experience our true desire, we have to become better at swimming downstream instead of swimming upstream against the current. There is a natural order of things. You know, we teach that here. There are laws, the law of reciprocity, the law of love, the law of abundance. Those are ways in which, if we can harmonize with those laws, we can have a life of greater, whatever it is that we want. But we have to begin to understand God's operating system. You know, there is just a natural order. If, for instance, if you were to hug your teenager or your preteen in front of his friends as you drop him off for school, I can bet they're going to say, "Ooh, get away. Ooh, Mom, don't do that." Has nothing to do with the desire to show love or his desire to receive love. It only has to do with the way you're doing it. You're out of the natural order of things. Today, I want to help us get to this way of swimming downstream by a couple of ideas. One of those ideas is the idea of becoming an inverse paranoid. An inverse paranoid. Many of you have read the work of W. Clement Stone, the great philosopher and metaphysician and philanthropist. And he said he woke up one day and he realized he needed to become an inverse paranoid. And what that meant to him was he was going to greet every situation in that day with the idea that the world and all the people in it were plotting to do him good. They weren't plotting to do him harm. And when he went out and he began to do that, see every event, not as a negative event, but as an opportunity to enhance his life, to empower him and give him advantages in this life. You know, we could end, you and I, we could end so much pain in this world if we would let go, if we would become inverse paranoids and let go of our victim stories. I have friends who've been divorced for 10 years, and they're still carrying around the story of their divorce. They're still carrying around the story of what happened to them in great detail. And they can tell me each of those details now, 10 years later. Is it the divorce that's causing them harm? No. It's the memory of the divorce at this point that's caused. And it wasn't a great divorce. I'm telling you, they have every right reason to be righteous about feeling bad about this situation. But it's not doing them any good. It's not doing them any good. Our victim stories are what keep us sickly. And if we can become inverse paranoids, we can begin to let go of this victim consciousness. We can see the world, begin to see it as an opportunity. For instance, maybe your car breaks down the road. And instead of thinking, "Oh my God, it's nighttime, somebody's going to come and they're going to bong me over the head and take my car and beat me up." Instead of thinking that, if your car breaks down in the middle of the road and you're an inverse paranoid, you begin to think, "Oh my God, maybe my next partner is going to be in that car that's going to help me. Maybe my next best friend is going to be in that car that's going to help me. Maybe you got dumped." Instead of just sticking with that part of your life, begin to see yourself as an inverse paranoid. What does that do for me now? Oh, it frees me up. Now I can get a person who is truly loving and compassionate and passionate. And by the way, goes to work every day and brings home a paycheck. Maybe that's what's available for me now. Maybe you got cancer. And I don't know of anybody that I've talked to who hasn't gone through that experience, who can't tell me some of the wonderful, beautiful things that have come out of that experience. A terrible experience. Going through chemo is a terrible thing to have to go through. But at the end, they were able to find things about that grew their soul and made them a person closer to walk with God. See, if we approach everything, every good thing in our life that is good, it's not an accident, that everyone and every person that comes into our life will always enhance us, I promise you, you will know peace. You will know peace. I encourage us every day to wake up and signal to the universe, I'm an inverse paranoid. I have a friend, a colleague in South Carolina. She's actually gone now. COVID took her. But a fabulous minister in Charleston. And she said every day she would wake up and she would say to herself, I'm a black woman and I'm going out into the world. Or I'm a child of God and I'm going out into the world. So 3 days a week she would say, I'm a black woman and I'm going out into the world. And 4 days a week she would say, I'm a child of God and I'm going out into the world. And 3 days a week, when she would go out as a black woman, she'd say people would follow her around the store thinking she was going to pick up something. They wouldn't put the change back in her hand. They would put it on the counter and have her pick it up. She said when she went out as a child of God, she went through those very same experiences. And people treated her differently. Now, it doesn't mean that there isn't racism and that she didn't experience it. But she put out a vibe of, don't mess with me. I'm a child of God. And that vibe that she put out accomplished a different kind of vibe. The second awareness I want to talk about today to help us swim downstream as opposed to upstream is to understand how frequently or infrequently we live outside of our comfort zone. Think of your comfort zone as a prison that you made, largely made by those ideas that came to us when we were little people, those ideas that we weren't enough of something. We weren't smart enough. We weren't kind enough. We weren't pretty enough. We weren't handsome enough. Those are the kinds of ideas that keep us in a prison, those must-nots. And it keeps us stuck from moving forward. Many of you have heard, maybe even Reverend Pam has talked about, this idea of fleas. You know, there was a story of a group of scientists who stood around a table in their white coats and their clipboards, and in the center of the table was a little jar of fleas. And they would stay for 45 minutes, they watched this jar of fleas. And the fleas would jump up and they'd hit their little flea heads on the lid and they'd hit back down. Jump up, hit their little flea heads, come back down. Jump up, hit flea heads, jump back down. After 45, they made notes. God knows how much our taxpayers gave them to do this, but they did. At the end of 45 minutes, they took the lid off, and the fleas would only jump up to where the lid used to be and no higher. Now, they could have jumped out and run away, bit somebody on the way, but they didn't. They'd only go to the top of the jar and come back down. You and I are living lives that way in some areas of our life. I know I certainly am. You know, I'm just about to launch a workshop called Just Say No, Say Hell No to Graceful Aging. Because we become, the idea of who we are is often presented to us by somebody else. The medical community, advertisers, telling us who it is that we are. See, our comfort zone works the same way as a thermostat in your house. When your temperature in your house that you set the limit of the temperature. When it reaches that temperature, the air is as cool as you want it or as warm as you want it, it turns off. And then when it gets lower than that, it will turn itself back on. That's how the temperature in your house works. Similarly, you have a psychological, internal psychological thermostat that regulates your performance. Instead of sending electrical signals to say how you use discomfort, whenever we become in a situation that doesn't feel good, we turn down, we back up, we make ourselves smaller. To keep within our comfort zone, we always pull back. Jack Canfield, his dad was a cash register sales manager. He was a sales manager of a cash register company. And he said, I've got a guy who is a $3,600 a month cash register salesman. And every month he will bring in exactly $3,600. If he makes that $3,600 in the first 2 weeks of the month, he plays golf, he goes swimming, he goes boating, he goes and does whatever he wants. If he doesn't make his $3,600 by the middle of the last week, he works night and day. He's got a comfort zone. And that comfort zone is $3,600. No telling what he could make if that comfort zone was $4,600 or $5,000 a month. See, we all have that. To even think about our comfort zone, though, Jack we have to feel the fear and do it anyway. Many of you have probably read Bob Proctor, one of the great metaphysical teachers, and he says, look, we come this way but once, and we can either tiptoe through life and hope we don't get too bruised until we die, or we can embrace life fully. We can live full out. That's what we want to do. We want to come, you and I, we come by fear naturally. It's a gift from God. It was a gift from God, and especially appropriate when saber-toothed tigers were trying to catch us. And our fear would tell, we're in danger, run away. The problem now is the only saber-toothed tigers around are the ones between our ears. And they're very plentiful, those saber-toothed tigers. Finally, I want to talk about this idea of cooperating with God that means that we need to watch our mouth. Now, this is a really fundamental idea in Science of Mind, and we all know that because we know about affirmations, we know about the positive thinking, and yet I've been teaching this for 30 years, and the truth is I still have trouble watching my mouth. It's very easy for us to put ourselves down, and often we disguise it in humor. But it's not funny. It's not funny. Because while it doesn't hurt anybody else, it hurts us. It hurts us. Scientists tell us that the average person talks to themselves about 50,000 times a day. Now, it's not all sound verbal, but it is all messages that we give ourselves 50,000 times a day. And scientists tell us also that 80% of that 50,000 is negative. 80%. That's a lot of negative information that we have. I'm too old, I can't dance, I'm bald, I'm not pretty, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny. All those messages that we tend to repeat to ourselves. Now, here's the interesting thing. We don't get that message, that love is the message, what motivates us to get us better. So when we're putting ourselves down, there's a part of us that is trying to make ourselves do something better or be something better when we put ourselves down. That's what we're trying to do. The problem is it doesn't work. Remember when your kids were tiny and they would run out in the street? Now, we don't do this anymore, but I used to. You give them a little pop on the rear end and say, what were you thinking? You can't go out in the middle of the street. Or what's wrong with you? Or we'd send them to their room. We didn't do that because we didn't like them. We did that because we loved them. We were trying to keep them safe. Did they get the message? No. They got the message they shouldn't run in the street, but they didn't get the message that we loved them. And that's why we did it. And that's true of us right now when we put ourselves down. We're trying to make ourselves do better and be better, but the truth is, we're not getting the message. We want to motivate ourselves by love. The message isn't delivered when we put ourselves down. So I just want to close with this. Every ill we have could be solved if we would simply get in harmony with how God works in our life. And one of the ways to get in harmony of how God works is to become an inverse paranoid. Another is to talk nicer to ourselves. So easy. You know, spirituality is so easy, and we make it so hard. Oh, we get into this deep learnings, which are sometimes good and sometimes interesting, but mostly it's simply learning the basics, learning what it is that this church teaches us, that with God all things are possible, but it's not a God in the sky. It's a God that set down some principles. With spiritual principles, all things are possible. So let's take this message into prayer, knowing that the Great Spirit is always with us with so many different names: Allah, Elohim, Sacred Grandmother Tree, Infinite Wisdom, Divine Harmony, God itself. And when we recognize that that is in and around and through us all of the time, every minute of every day, we simply walk taller. We walk with more hope in our hearts. I name and claim this community is vibrant, is loving and growing, and with that I give great gratitude. For God always says yes. You want more love in your life? Yes. You want more peace in your life? Yes. You want to stop judging so much? Yes. God's word is yes. And so simply our questions have to be formed in such a way that we understand that God is here right now. I give thanks. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is. Great. Thank you.